There's so many. Did Grandma tell you which ones to buy?
No, but check out the label on this package. It'll help us find the right bulbs.
Does it really matter?
Well, sure. The new light bulbs use a lot less energy, so we save money on our electric bill by using an energy-saving incandescent, CFL, or LED.
How about this bulb?
Let's see. We need to replace the 60-watt bulbs in our bedside lamps. That one is 800 lumens, so it should do the trick.
I've never heard of lumens.
Lumens tell us how bright the light is. The more lumens, the brighter the bulb.
You know, Grandpa, you're a pretty bright guy.
Yeah, you're pretty smart yourself, Jamie.
Lumens, the new way to shop for light. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. That's EnergySavers.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Energy.
WOLB Baltimore and WERQ FM HD3 Baltimore.
The views and opinions of the guest and host you hear on 1010 WOLB
are not necessarily those of the staff and management of Radio 1, its sponsors, or advertisers.
It's done unto you as you believe. It's done unto you as you believe.
I'm gonna get there, yes, somehow. Push my way through the crowd. I'm gonna grab you by the hand to a place we will stand. Stand proud, no fear. It's clear, I believe in you. I believe in me. Oh yeah, I believe that we can make this dream a reality. Yeah, yeah. Now's the time to be. Now's the time for miracles. Oh, it's in my heart so deep. 'Cause I believe.
Do you believe? Do you believe? Yes, I believe in you. I believe in we. I believe that together we can make miracles reality. Welcome to another edition of the Patrick Henderson's Meet the People radio show right here on 1010 WOLB, where information is power, and we are coming to you live from the Kathy Hughes studio, Dr. Kathy Hughes studio, right here in Baltimore. Family, Patrick Henderson is out at a symposium. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Our co-host, James Morant, is going to be running the show for today's program. And of course, it wouldn't be Meet the People without you, the people. So make sure that you give us a call in, bring us your questions and or comments at 410-481-1010. The number again is 410-481-1010. We're still waiting on Richard. Richard hasn't given us a call yet. But good morning, Mr. Morant. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Jason, and good morning, Baltimore. Hope you're having a great day, and we're looking forward to spending some time together and discussing some of the great issues, national and local. So we're going to get off to a good start. Hopefully Richard will call in a few minutes, and we're looking forward to hearing from him. And we're also wishing the very best to Patrick Henderson, who is making a major speech. And it will be a speech on the war on church music.
And that's got to be interesting.
Which ought to be fascinating because he, as many of you all might know, is the basic father of praise and worship music. And he has had the wonderful ability of taking church hymns and doing very great medleys with slight updating of those hymns. And he has been composer of, I guess, over 700 tunes.
Yeah, including regular secular music.
and gospel music. And I remember once that I even made a trip to Los Angeles just to go to West Los Angeles Church of God in Christ so that I could hear this great choir and listen to this great praise and worship music that was led by Patrick Henderson, and he had the gospel greats on the choir, people like Daryl Coley, and so I went, and the Sunday that I went, I was actually told this was going to be the boring Sunday because they were going to have their sanctuary choir, and they weren't as good as the rest of the choirs. I tell you folks that the sanctuary choir was slamming. It was just a fantastic service from start to finish.
So you could imagine what the other choir was like.
I know. It's like, what? This is the bad choir?
Right.
But we wish him well, and we miss him, but we're going to carry on, and I think we have some really interesting things that we're going to talk about today. But let's just start off with...
real quick before you go into the prayer, just family, I just want to remind everyone, because I forgot to, again, do the housekeeping. That was the whole purpose of starting off the show. Family, you can check in on us at Facebook, Periscope, which is the Twitter version of Facebook Live, and YouTube. And you'll get to see everyone in the studio this morning, including Mr. James Morant in all of his glory, that's going to lead us out to prayer this morning.
Father, I stretch my hands to thee. No other help I know. If thou withdraw thyself from me, oh, where shall I go? Heavenly Father, we come to thee today just to say thank you. Thank you for being, and thank you for allowing us to be. We give you praise. We give you honor for all the great things that you've done. We thank you for the peaks, and we thank you for the valleys, because you know all things, and you do all things well. So thank you, Lord. These blessings we ask in thy name and for thy sake. Amen.
Amen. Amen. We got to give out a special prayer and ask the prayer warriors out there to truly extend their hands up to the Creator today for the folks in the Bahamas and in the islands that are dealing with Hurricane Dorian, just devastating effects on the islands down there. And I believe I heard this morning that there was a 7-year-old that lost her life to the hurricane in the Bahamas. So our hearts and prayers go out to the Bahamians.
Absolutely. I actually had said something to Jason earlier. There's a Walter Hawkins tune that says, tragedies are commonplace. All kinds of diseases. People are slipping away. Economy's down. People can't get enough pay. As for me, all I can say is thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me.
Yes.
And it seems as if the words of Walter Hawkins are coming true. We have tragedies on the East Coast. We have Dorian, as Jason had mentioned, and now we have tragedies on the West Coast. Yeah. We have a ship with 30 or so people, and it's actually burning. It caught fire overnight. So we have the East Coast, we have the West Coast, and then we have the middle of the country. We have Texas, where we're having more mass shootings. And that's one of the things that we might want to start off with today. We have had over 200 mass shootings this year. And I tried to be objective with this. But if, and I'm going to say it and people will get upset, so what?
You sound like Dave Chappelle getting ready to say something.
I'm getting ready to say something. When the face of the criminality is not how do I want to say this? If the face of criminality is white, then it isn't really criminal. It's mental.
Right.
If it's black, then it's savage. It's inherently evil. It's every negative concept that you can imagine. And I watch these newscasts and I see when they don't want to identify exactly who it is, you always know. At least people in my community, in the black community, always know that it's not a black person. So
yeah.
We have someone who obviously had some mental difficulties and other difficulties, I'm sure. They said that he was just fired from his job about an hour before he went on his rampage. But we tend to give excuses. We find all kinds of reasons for saying this isn't really as bad as you think because he had a mental problem. But if Jason Rodriguez picked up a weapon and offed several hundred people, or 15 or 20 people, his picture would be all over national news.
My history would be
your
exposed.
history, what you did when you were 12,
right?
What your middle school teacher said about you, all would be a matter of public record.
Right.
So that's what's going on in America. There are two different Americas, sad to say. But when you look at these tragedies on the East Coast, the West Coast, and now the center of America, you see that the country, the threads of this country are very frayed. And
James, I get criticized all the time when I say that. Unfortunately, to me, it's the demonization of folks of color. Like you said, we don't look at things as a mental health crisis, or as you see me all the time ranting and raving on Facebook Live.
No,
that it's even an environmental issue where we're dealing with children that are products of lead poisoning, and in some cases, it's been found genetically to alter the genetics of a child. So even at conception. So it's almost like because we don't see these things, within our environment or in our community as an issue. If it was a cancer cluster, I said this yesterday to Richard, if it was a cancer cluster, something that's easily identifiable medically, and folks are seeing people suffering and dying because of cancer, we would try to eradicate and figure out whether it's environmental, whether it's something in the food, something in the water. We would try to figure out exactly what these ailments are that are causing the cancer cluster. But in this particular case, we see it all around the country, violent crimes happening within our community. In Cincinnati this week, they had 7 people shot and killed. A brawl broke out at, I believe, like a football event or just an event, when we were having cookouts and things going on over Labor Day. Chicago had over 20 shootings and over a half a dozen people shot and killed. We saw multiple quadruple shootings right here in Baltimore.
We had 3 quadruple shootings.
And a mother was killed trying to shield her child, and then another mother had to witness her son die right before her. And we don't see this as a public health crisis. We see this as a public safety crisis.
Yes, I agree. And I don't know what the solution is. We have to change our entire mindset. And unfortunately, this country doesn't seem to be in the mood of changing their mindset at this point, which takes me to another topic, which is our government corruption in general. We have a president, I call him a man-baby president, because the actions of this person is just like maybe a 3 or 4 year old, where they do such irrational things. So here we have a president who stays home from Poland so that he can monitor the Hurricane Dorian, but who goes to Camp David, invites people to Camp David, governors, and then takes a helicopter and goes to Virginia to go golfing. Which is his 228th golfing trip to one of his properties. And meanwhile, Dorian potentially slams into about 4 states. And he, in addition to doing the golf thing, he's tweeting. And he's tweeting about Deborah Messing, who played on Will and Grace. So he's tweeting about her. He's tweeting about the Squad. He's tweeting about all manner of things. And I'm saying with national emergencies, we need a consoler in chief. We need a person that is of action and high quality. And what we have is a talk show, a reality show. It's not a talk show. It's a reality show. Episode, I don't know what episode this is, but it is quite exhausting. And it's
how many
very
days has he been in office? There'll be episodes.
Yeah, it's like we're in the almost 800th. I don't know how many days he's been in office. Maybe you can check that out. But we have an episode a day. And my wife was actually saying it's very interesting. Hurricane Dorian kept him off of the news cycle. So he wasn't number 1, 2, or 3 in the news cycle. He came in maybe about 4. And so what he decided to do was then start this, I call it tweeteria. So he did all these tweets. And as of this morning, he's moved up in terms of news stories. So he was like number 1 or 2 in terms of news stories. So when I say that we are having an interesting and negative national experience, it is true. So we have the tragedies, and then we have the government corruption. And then that leads me to another topic, which we can get into.
But before you move on,
sir.
real quick, so we are on the 954th episode.
Okay, 954, you all. 954 episodes of America, the Dark Ages. Why don't we call it that? Because that's really where we are at this point. That takes us to another topic. We have a presidential election which is coming up, but what is also very important in this city, given where we are right now, is the mayor election, the city council elections. Yep. All of those individuals who are up for election next year, which is going to be April 28th. So write that down, you all. April 28th. I harped on this a couple of weeks. But April 28th is the time for you to elect your new city leadership, or keep the same leadership that you have.
And we know that Labor Day, not only is it the unofficial end to summer, but it also begins the official start of campaigning season.
Yes.
So things start to rev up into high gear politically, for those that are inspiring to take elected positions.
We will know in January exactly who is going to run. What's going on now is people are putting their feelers out. People are trying to raise money and assess whether they should or could run. Yesterday, there was an article, front page of the Baltimore Sun, which talked about the fact that we can't quite figure out what's going to happen on the mayoral elections, because Jack Young hasn't decided exactly what he's going to do.
And speaking on that, just really quick, Mr. Morant, I want to just throw this out to all those that are inspiring to run for office. Please do not register early. There are benefits for holding out and waiting. For instance, you're able to go on radio shows and speak openly because you're not necessarily a registered candidate at the time.
Come on the Patrick Henderson show.
Right. And you can be able to come on the Patrick Henderson show. You'll be able to go on other radio stations and television programs and be able to talk about what your position and your platform is. But you really do kind of a disservice to yourself as a potential candidate when you register early. And the great political ones wait until the last minute to file, which is an advantage to them.
January 24th is the last date to file. So we will know on January 25th exactly what the slate of candidates is going to be. But in the meantime, we all know elections have consequences. And what I'm trying to figure out is what is it that we want in Baltimore? Can we figure out what the 5 or 6 or 7 things might be that would qualify as a good thing for a mayor or a good thing for a city councilman? I have about 4 or 5 things that I constantly harp on to say that if you can't address satisfactorily these 4 or 5 things that are related to my self-interest, to the self-interest of James C. Morant, and perhaps my family and the rest of my community, then you can't be my candidate. So I'm very selfish in that, and I really want to know what people think should be those characteristics that would be suitable for you to vote for person X.
I think what's interesting is that we all kind of share the same kind of wants and needs as far as, again, because you have described your list the other day, last couple of programs, and for me, they are all the same bullet points. It's just in my particular case, the order may be a little bit different. Because I really emphasize more on mental health and drug rehabilitation and education first, as opposed to public safety. But I think that we can all agree that we all want, as a community, the same common things: better communities, safer streets, better educational system, wraparound services. We all want the same thing. So we should find a way to come together in one accord to be able to present that to our potential candidates.
And you have just heard Jason Rodriguez with his rose-colored glasses on.
Well, let's take a call real quick, because we have Brother Leo on the line, our senior warrior, and I know that he has something that's in the works currently that is looking at presenting those issues to the potential candidates for Baltimore City.
Leo.
Yes, good morning.
Wonderful to hear from you.
Good morning, my brothers. How are you?
Fine.
Well, praise God, from whom all blessings flow, and praise the Lord, and pass the ammunition for justice, decency, and fair play. I'm so glad to hear you this morning. I'm just reflecting on your words, Brother Morant, with respect to where we are, and you mentioned Donald, the actor Trump, and the positive value system that we should have in this country vis-a-vis the technological God force that exists. I can do better and I can learn more with regard to the new technology, but if we think that technology in and of itself is going to solve our cowardice that some of us manifest by not having a stance on issues and concerns that bespeak of a positive value system, such as Kwanzaa and others, then we're making a serious mistake. There may be 50 methods of communication right now in the modern world, in the Western world, and I maintain that we've been duped into believing that if we become masters of Facebook and social media theatrics and other kinds of things, that we're home free, and we're not. We're going in 20 different directions, and sometimes you got to do the old mother wit kind of thing. You got to sit down with your brothers and sisters, break bread together, shake hands together, look each other in the eye, eyeball to eyeball, whether you see the whites of the eyes or not. You got to sit down and talk about how we go about doing things, and then allow the technology to serve as enhancements of the positive communication that's been developed one-on-one and collectively in a communal context. So I'm just saying that I'm looking at Baltimore, and I'm looking at the mayor, and I'm looking at the races, and I'm looking at folks playing all kinds of games, whether it's the president, the city council, or others. And the thing that I'm going to leave you with is this matter of the rainy day fund. I'm still scratching my head. When I challenged the matter of why the rainy day fund was not utilized to pay part of the cost, or the full cost of the ransomware attack on city government, I was told that it's there for the bond ratings, it's there for some purpose unbeknownst to the rest of us, and then you take $7-8 million from the Parks and Recreation, and you give it to you use that $7 or $8 million from Parks and Recreation to pay part of the cost for the $18 million loss as a consequence of the ransomware attack. I don't understand it. And I don't understand if we don't have a definition that we can agree upon on what constitutes an emergency in the city and how monies are spent. And if, in fact, the rainy day fund is being audited, or any of the monies that we have in this city are being audited, then we're going to stand in this new year, this new forthcoming election, to repeat the same thing over and over again with the same kind of leadership that's taking us on a treadmill to hell, because that's the way we seem to be going.
Well, how do we get action on that? I mean, I hear what you're saying, but who do we contact? Who do we prick to make that happen?
Well, I think a petition, a letter-writing campaign to the mayor and the city government regarding auditing and how these monies are spent, and accounting of that, and if not getting response in a proper time frame, we go in several directions. Either we file a lawsuit, or we go to the state's attorney of Baltimore City and we say, hey, we want you to impanel a grand jury to investigate the misconduct that is readily apparent. I know that the comptroller of Baltimore City, Joan Pratt, expressed her dissatisfaction with how monies are being spent, how they're being handled. And when we hear that, we should capitalize on what officials are saying. If they say themselves, she's been in office more than 20 years, if she says there's a possibility of corruption that exists, and we can't get definitive answers to it, then we need to take the appropriate legal action, and we need to hold those public hearings, whether they're in the city council or whether we hold them at recreation centers, as to what is happening with the money and why aren't our children and those services that are needed for the low income as well as middle income people, why they're not being prioritized.
Brother Leo, I agree with you almost 99% here, but what was the sense of us having a ballot initiative that mandated that we have audits every 4 years if we have to send letters asking them to perform audits when this was already decided on a ballot measure?
That is correct, but the trigger, you're correct in what you're saying. We've authorized it, we've mandated it, but who's going to enforce it? The city solicitor, who's the city's attorney, he's not going to do anything. He's part of that system. So it revolves. It comes back to community organizations and individuals who will band together and take the necessary legal action to compel the people who are in leadership position, the political power structure, as it were, to adhere to what they've agreed to do. And it's a shame. It's a damn shame. But the reality is that a lot of folks are not going to do what they agree to do if you don't force them to do it. And whether it takes a boycott or a demonstration or a combination of demonstrations and marches and legal action, then so be it. That's where we have to go. We've got to compel them to do it, and it can happen.
Well, is that a city council meeting, or is that a leak to the newspaper? What?
Well, it has to be a combination of demanding that the Public Safety Committee and other committees in the City Council hold public hearings. The City Council can't pass laws on everything, but they can pass resolutions. Mm-hmm. They have the power to pass a resolution stating that this must go forward, this must happen within a certain time period, within time constraints. Because if you leave things open to negotiation or voluntary action, folks don't voluntarily do anything. We got ripped off with Kevin Plank and Port Covington and the tax incremental financing and so forth. And a lot of us complain, but we didn't drop the other shoe. That means you have to litigate this matter. We can pool our resources, raise the monies if the state's attorney will not act in our behalf, but we certainly got to ask her to act in our behalf. But if she doesn't, then we've got to take the necessary action to force compliance.
I'm not as optimistic as you are, Brother Leo. We have you have the lawyers at the NAACP. You have the Monumental Bar Association.
That's right.
You have all these, organizations that have some capacity to litigate and to be able to put these things forward. And you don't see any urgency, and you don't see anybody moving forward with any type of litigation against the city.
Have we asked, again, it's an election year, Did we ask the Legislative Black Caucus to do anything? Have we asked our city councilman? My city councilman is Eric Costello. We call him Eric the Red. Eric Costello, he's in the 11th City Council District. Are you asking your city council people to do anything by way of follow-through on what they've agreed to do, to compel Brandon Scott, the president of the city council, the mayor, and others to do what they said they're going to do and have failed to deliver on? If you don't, folks talk about being radical. Well, it's not radical to demand as taxpayers. We pay the salaries of all these public officials, city, state, and federal. If you don't demand they do what you're paying them to do, then hell, why vote in the first place? I think we must vote, and we must vote in numbers. But if you're too scared, if you're too chicken-hearted to demand people that they be accountable, then you don't need to vote.
Well, I think that a lot of times people don't know exactly all the levers to push. And so people like you, Leo, can help lead the charge. But what I think is a lot of times the news media actually can break a story, and they hate media coverage of things like this.
Well, hopefully the Sun paper and the Afro-American will do it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But we've got to break this open. This intransigence is standing in the way of progress. God bless you guys.
God bless you, sir.
Keep up the good work.
All right. Look to hear from you again soon. All right. We go from we need about 27 seconds.
Yes, family, don't go anywhere, and you can join the conversation and discussion. 410-481-1010.
Yeah, call in.
Again, the number is 410-481-1010. Bubby, we see you. Gene, we see you. And we have our other senior warrior, Brother Richard, finally is joining us as well. We'll bring him in at the top of the hour here. Again, don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Patrick Henderson's Meet the People radio program right here on 1010 WOLB.
Be back in a minute.
Your destiny.
WOLB Baltimore and WERQ FM HD3 Baltimore. Brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel.
The views and opinions of the guest and host you hear on 1010 WOLB
are not necessarily those of the staff and management of Radio 1, its sponsors, or advertisers.
We're gonna try here. I saw the light.
I saw the light.
I saw the light.
Patrick hates when I play this. But we're sending our love and our prayers out to Patrick Henderson, who is not with us today. He is out in Texas, out at a symposium talking about the war on music in the church.
Now, you know, in the Church of God in Christ, they do a little different, don't they? Hey.
One of my favorite performances from Patrick Henderson, and he had a little bit of hair at the time too as well. So, but Brother James, I was just playing "I Saw the Light," great performance by Patrick Henderson. I mean, just a master of the organ, master of the keys, the ivories.
Absolutely.
And we're sending our prayers and our love to him down in Texas. I was just telling the family that he's down there on a symposium for the war on music in the church. And you said that you had a couple of thoughts and opinions on that.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to bring Brother Richard in too as well.
All right. Hi, Richard.
Good afternoon, James. How
All right.
are you?
Yeah. So the war on church music, we seem to be moving. Well, we went to praise and worship music, and then we went to bring the choir back. And Patrick's view is that no matter what we're doing, we seem to be losing some of the guts of the church, meaning the people who are going to move the church forward in the future. So that's the millennial crowd. And so I think he's going to speak to the fact that music is a draw, but that there are other things that are going on in the church that help motivate people to come. And I think that he has such a historical perspective of the ebbs and flows. When praise and worship music became the hottest thing, and then when choir music then supplanted praise and worship music, I think he's going to be able to stimulate some conversation and get some people thinking.
Yeah, what's interesting is that recently I saw an interview. It was actually an older interview with Tone, and they were asking him about, what does he feel that's happening with the church? Folks are not, assembling into the churches like they used to. And he was saying that, well, a lot of it has to do with the structure of music. He said that taking away the quartets to him was one of the main issues. Another issue for him was the building of the choirs within the church, because if somebody couldn't serve in any other way in the church, they could at least serve the church by being a part of the choir. So, and I agree with them wholeheartedly that you see a lot of the churches have moved away in many cases from building of the choirs. And again, I haven't seen a quartet group in none of the churches that I've patronized in many years.
No, I haven't seen quartet. I have seen praise and worship groups, and some of those praise and worship groups substitute for a major choir, and there are varying views in terms of whether they're successful at this point. I think people, or at least what I've seen, is that there's a hunger for the choir music now, and we have several groups here in Baltimore City. Eric Waddell and the Abundant Life Singers has a monthly thing called Hour of Power, where you actually have choirs come in and have singers really doing the old-fashioned big choir songs. So there is change afoot, and I'm not sure that churches are quite ready or know exactly what to do about it yet.
And I have to give a shout out to Early Morning Gospel, Bishop, Miss Paula, and the staff at Early Morning Gospel right here on WLB every Sunday morning at 8:30 for holding on to that music. And in many cases, you see them; they are inspiring a new generation of quartet singers to get involved and to record. So.
Now, the quartets, I got to say. I've done some work with quartet programs in Baltimore City years ago, and if you brought a quartet in to certain places in Baltimore City, you packed it out.
Yeah.
And then they had vendors that would come because it seemed to attract the quartets seemed to attract the vendors, and the vendors brought more people in, and everybody in the crowd knew the quartet songs.
Yeah. Sister Sandra and Sister Paula and the bishop that runs the show just finished coming from an event in Long Island, and they said the place was packed. The place was packed, and quartet groups from all over the country. So we have to understand how music has a tendency to bring people together, and to bring people together to worship. And it tends to be the glue within the church. It's not the whole part of the church, but it tends to be, part of that mortar within that brick of the churches. So
I agree.
Yeah. So, Brother Richard, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
See, there are certain times you don't enter into conversations that you have no clue on.
Well, Brother Richard, we've brought up so much this morning, and again, family, you could still chime in 410-481-1010. The lines are full. When a line becomes open, please give us a call. And Brother Morant, you ready to bring up Bubby?
Yes. Well, before I have somebody just texted me, why are we buying fans when schools need air conditioners? What can we use the rainy day fund for that?
Allegedly, according to the power structure and the real power of the state of Maryland, the teachers unions, The school says that they can't put air conditioners in there because the electrical systems will not support them. Then they should have known this for how many years now, and they
Correct.
should have been able to update all of the electrical systems in all of the schools.
Right. But Richard, here's the whole deal though with this, and I tell folks this: majority of those that are the voting constituencies, the super voters, those that hold the political power, those less than 200,000 that are actually active within the political process here in Baltimore City, they could care less about our public schools. Why? Because they're sending their children to private schools, and they don't have issues in these private schools when it comes down to air conditioning and heat is concerned. And because this is not their issue, our schools are allowed to be in deplorable shape. They're continually underperforming. Chris Papps just sent me from Fox 45 Project Baltimore, just sent me a text message the other day saying that originally in court they told them that there were 11 schools that were found to be changing the grades. Now the number has moved up to 22.
Let's look at even bigger than that. The Baltimore City public school system per capita spends the third highest in the entire country, behind New York and Boston, but yet they're the lowest performing school system in the entire country. But
Right.
yet they want to have more money, which is going to ultimately cost the taxpayers of the state of Maryland. And how many of these taxpayers that they are going to now get into their pockets are they going to destroy? And I hate to put it in this way, especially in the city of Baltimore, where you have a big population of individuals who are on fixed income and own their own property, but yet they're going to up the property taxes on them. They're going to up the state income taxes on them. They're going to up every tax that they can get their hands on, to where the seniors are now going to be forced to determine whether or not they're going to spend to pay to keep their houses, or spend to pay keep their medications, or they're going to have to make very, very nasty
Or move down to
decisions.
Florida where the tax structure is better for seniors.
And then or that too, but many people can't escape to Florida.
Correct.
But they're going to be hurt. But all the legislators are going to do is say, well, if you don't want to do this, it's for the kids. You don't like the children. You don't like the city of Baltimore, which is a bunch of crap.
No, what I don't like is malfeasance in office.
Right. And some of it is malfeasance, and some of it is the bureaucracy and the administration, just inefficiencies at North Avenue is just beyond belief, and everybody is taking care of their self with, almost six-figure salaries, $100,000 salaries. Chris Papps exposed that you had teachers that were exposing the system as well, or taking advantage of the system, that were making $75,000 to $100,000. It's everybody lining their pockets. The contractors come in and see it also as a big opportunity to come in and fleece the city, because they feel they have an open checkbook as far as North Avenue is concerned. And everybody is taking advantage, of our children in the process, and the children are not getting the resources, and the money is not trickling down to them. It's getting stuck in North Avenue.
I honestly fear for young people who are going into the system now. I, for example, have a granddaughter, and I'm trying to figure out what's it going to be like for the rest of her school career in Baltimore, and what does one need to do to prepare that youngster. I mean, how much stuff can I do at home versus what she's going to get in school? And it's quite frankly very scary, and we need to make some decisions as a family, and people in Baltimore need to get concerned about the enrichment that's being provided to our students, as opposed to the ability to take a test. I think that there are critical thinking aspects. There are life lessons that the young people in Baltimore don't learn, and that's possibly why we see some of the young people act out in the way they do. But, this sounds sort of silly, but when I was coming up, they had home economics. Now, that sounds sort of weird now, but it did give you a foundation for, sort of how to cook, how to maintain a home.
How about to just put a button on your shirt?
Button on your shirt, Jason. I mean, it's just like those kinds of things are lost. And I was saying the other day, I had a guy that I was mentoring, and we went shopping, and he was a former member of a gang. And we went to K&G to try to get a suit. And he did not know how to size a suit, did not know how to shop for a suit, did not know about things like belts. And then when you got to shoes, it was like, sort of, what are these? So he knew sweatsuits, he knew tennis, sneakers, but he did not know what size dress shirt he wore. And you say to yourself, how did this happen? At that point, he was 24.
Right, and many of the representatives inside the store don't know either. That haberdashery and that whole field of, someone just having a knowledge of tailoring has definitely been lost. I used to work at a haberdashery, so I know it doesn't show, though, with what I wear, but because I'm always in street clothes.
Right now, we laugh about all of this stuff, but unfortunately, right now, this is now critical because it's going to destroy a lot of people, and these legislators and everybody else really could care absolutely less about what's going to happen. And then you got something else lurking right around the corner too. You got that HBCU settlement that's going to come into play. So that's going to be more money that's going to have to be come out of the pockets of constituents. And see, right now what the General Assembly and the Democrats are doing, they're trying to force Hogan into doing it now. Hogan is saying, no, I'm not going to do it until you all can assure me of certain things, and then they're going to make him seem like he's the bad guy because he doesn't want to support Baltimore or support the children.
Right. And I think what's going to happen is this is going to end up in a higher court, higher than the the appellate court,
Court
of Appeals, right? And what's going to happen is that this is going to have a national effect on HBCUs across the country. So the lines are full, family. If you want to join in, 410-481-1010. Let's go on to the line so we can start getting our callers. Brother Bubby, good morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning,
Bubby. Gentlemen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great conversation going on, and I wish I could jump into that Baltimore City school system stuff, but I can't at this moment. Trust me, I can't at this moment. But let me just say where I wanted to go at. I pulled up something. The Board of Commissioners for the Baltimore City Housing Authority. The commissioners on the Housing Authority, Baltimore City Board, are appointed by the mayor of Baltimore City. A diverse 5-panel member board is the governing body for HABC, responsible for the Board of Commissioners. Responsibilities for the Board of Commissioners include policies and procedures governing key operation and financial matters related to HABC housing program. The Board of Commissioners are James Lee Smith is the chairman. Robin Carter is the vice chairman. Dr. Boyer G. Freeman is a commissioner. Sharon Jones is a resident. The reason I bring this up, I have worked with Miss Jones when she was, or still is, a public housing resident. I have worked with Reverend Boyer Freeman, the pastor of the St. Mark's Baptist Church. Now, right here, they governed the Housing Authority policy and procedures. Now, I have been for years asking the Board of Commissioners to investigate the executive director and the commissioner, then Paul T. Graziano, now Janet Abrams. Now, can someone explain to me why this board, who know how to contact me, have not called me in, because I sent Mr. Mr. Smith, the chairperson, over 400 papers relating to fraud, abuse of power, and retaliation by the Housing Authority leadership. Now, keep in mind, when Graziano was there, he had a person by the name of Jan Gosley. She is the legal counsel for the Housing Authority. No one get terminated, no one get disciplined unless she sign off on it. The reason I bring that up, she is still there. I called her office last week to make a complaint. They kept me on hold when they heard my number until the phone died out. So now I hear all this talking about fraud at North Avenue, but I'm very, very disappointed when our elected politicians will not utter the word of HABC or Housing and Community Development out of their mouth when it comes to fraud. Can someone explain to me why this agency, which is two now, but it really is one, is above reproach and no one questioned their fiscal responsibility, the corruption and the nepotism and the abuse of the Baltimore citizens that go on daily? Let me just say, I am so proud of Local 647 for what they did last week when they rejected that unfair contract brought to them by their union representatives that are in bed with the political and the leadership at the Baltimore City Housing Authority. Now, all Saturday at the Cadillac Parade, the politicians tell me how much they love me. They wish I would not call any names out. Well, I'm not going to call any names out this Monday, but if they don't get back to me with something tangible, I will be calling their names out next Monday. Thank y'all very much, and I enjoy listening to the show.
Thank you, Brother Bubby. Always Bubby. Consistent on his on his fight. And
he's on a mission.
Yeah, again, I mean, it shows you, I mean, from the school, to the housing authority. I even say to the police department, I have to throw that out there because they get almost a third of Baltimore City's, general budget. All these agencies have inefficiencies, and in many cases, there's protectionism and like he said, narcissism, going on within these agencies.
Then Jason, can you answer this question for me? If you are a chief executive officer of some major corporation, or you're just somebody who is looking to relocate to another nice place, what would induce you to come to Baltimore?
Nothing.
Come on now, I need somebody to be a cheerleader.
He said it awful fast.
Because that's one of the questions that I have for any mayoral candidate, any city council person. Tell me, when you go to all these conferences, like you go to Las Vegas and talk to the supermarket people, and you go to all these places, what do you tell them about coming to Baltimore? Do you say, well, we have a wonderful public safety system, we have a great education system, we have wonderful parks and recreation, we have all these great things? What do you do? Give me the words. Give me the words to say to someone who wants to come to Baltimore. Start with you.
Okay, I'll tell you. Well, I could say, we have high taxes, we have bad gun taxes, we have lack of
I said inducements to come to Baltimore.
We have bad education, we have this and we have that. Right. Why would they come here? Right. This is the reason why things are so bad right now, is because everything has been allowed to deteriorate to the point where who would want to come here? And since you can't bring the major corporations here, all it's going to do is get worse.
Right. Well, since this is Tell the Truth Monday, it seems like I'm going to go ahead and tell my truth. And again, of course, everybody knows my history and where I came from as far as the streets is concerned. So I didn't know anything about the government, the police corruption, things of that nature. All I knew was that Baltimore was a great place to hustle, and Baltimore was a great place as far as the people was concerned. I fell in love with the city and its people. And I think that's why I have more empathy to what's going on in our communities, because I love my people and I love the communities. Now, when I got here, I realized that there was a lot more going on to Baltimore than just the hustle and the great people here, that there were other elements in place that seemed to be controlling the dynamics in this city. And I always would people would tell me all the time, "Hey man, what's Baltimore like?" My friends from New York. I'd say, "Well, it's kind of weird because you walk down one block and you see clean streets, you see nice homes, you see great development, white people everywhere, but you can easily turn one corner and see broken sidewalks, trash everywhere, dilapidated, properties, and people suffering everywhere, So there was obviously there was two cities at the time when I came here and didn't realize there was two cities.
Two. There are actually three. Jason.
Well, neither one of you all are making the case for Baltimore. I'm trying. So that means neither one of you all are running for mayor. Is that right? Because you certainly haven't said that these are reasons why you should be mayor, and you should induce people to come to Baltimore.
I'm not running for mayor, so which means I don't have to sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
You don't have to soapbox it.
I'm looking at these phones, Jason. Does this mean all of these people are calling in?
All the lines are tied up, and let's try to get to the lines here. Brother Gene, good morning. You're on Patrick Henderson's Meet the People.
Yeah, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
The reason I would come to Baltimore if I was a corporation would be location, and gentrification. That's why I would come to Baltimore. I have a question. You guys gave great recommendation for a person who's going to run for office, and that is not to announce your candidacy and then come on board and talk about your candidacy, right? And the person who's doing that the best right now is Brandon Scott. Brandon Scott right now is on tour.
Yeah.
Running for mayor, hasn't announced it.
Correct.
And I think his 26-point plan.
Yes, it's a 26-point plan.
Perfect example.
I've been to two of his town halls out of the 7 or 9.
But it's out there, and that's what he's doing. He's very astute, in my opinion. Now, I might not agree with everything, but I think he's very astute.
He was groomed by the best. Stephanie Rowland Blake, Martin O'Malley. Right.
And he went to St. Mary's College. Can't cut that out. He's very well educated. Okay. Now the other thing, Jason, I have a question for you. If a person is going to run for mayor, they have to understand what their power base is, right? And so the 5 appointments that the mayor of Baltimore uniquely has, so that he really runs Baltimore City. What are those 5 components that a mayor of Baltimore has, where the city council, he trumps the city council?
Well, the police commissioner being 1, the housing authority being 2,
DPW,
right? The Department of Public Works, the Board of Estimates, because they hold 3 seats.
Right.
And then Richard, you fill me in on the 5th one.
Well,
and he appoints
every board and commission in the city.
No, the comptroller is elected.
Is an elected, but they do create the directors for each agency,
right?
or each department.
Are you speaking of the Board of Estimates? Those 5, or you're speaking of a cabinet level officer?
In other words, like the reform that Brandon Scott is talking about.
He wants 3 for the Board of Estimates.
He wants to take it down to the elected officials.
Right.
Yeah, and to me, and why I brought this up is because I don't truly understand it, and I don't think that there's, other than Larry Young, there's not too many other people in Baltimore who understand the power structure.
Right.
And if we can't have this conversation, then we'll never be able to understand it. My other concern is the press. So we always talk about the Afro. We where we get our information from. We get it from talk radio, wonderful, Yahoo, and then we get our information from the Sun paper.
All right.
Yeah. What about Be More News, Donnie Glover?
Right.
What about alternative news sources?
The Baltimore Brew.
Baltimore Brew.
We had the city paper that did, to me, some great reporting, and exposing a lot of stuff that was going on.
But honestly, the New York Times and the Washington Post.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I apologize for cutting you off. But what I'm talking about is information from a Negro source, from an Afro-American source, from an African-American source.
We don't have that.
From a colored people's source.
We don't have that.
A source that's relevant to us from black people. We have that?
No, we don't have that.
We don't have it. And so again, like I personally have tried to fill. I'm filling the void with my podcast, Africana Magazine News. It's on all platforms on the internet. Podcast.
And we appreciate that effort too, Brother Gene, because I know that you're taking a lot of the shows from here, from WOLB, and you're recasting them, on your site.
It is so much wonderful information coming out of Black radio. But again, you know what I mean? Well, we have a show that's 4 hours in the morning, and then we might get 3 hours of information or people who come on board and give us that information, but it gets lost in the sauce.
Right.
But Patrick does an excellent job. You guys do an excellent job.
Thank you, sir.
There are a couple other shows. Since I'm talking to you guys, I'll compliment you all. And Jason, God bless you for coming to Baltimore.
Thank you, sir. And I think the other position, now that I think about it, that the mayor has control of is the Inspector General's office. So that'd be the fifth office.
But again, we have to be able to say that like Leo. Leo says it when Leo runs it down. He hits his 5 points of who is against us, who's for us, like it or lump it. He's right on point. So
yes, sir.
Again, you guys keep up the good work.
Thank you, Brother Gene. All right, we're gonna go to Mr. Patrick Austin before the break. Mr. Patrick.
Patrick.
Good morning.
Good morning, Patrick.
James Morant, my good friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
All right. Well, this show done took so many turns. I'm just enjoying listening. All that is always with the show. I was sort of saddened when I realized that Patrick is where he is because he invited me to be a part of that, but I couldn't because of my commitments. Prior commitments in both music and in education. That I couldn't be a part of such an important think tank that they're having out there right now in Texas. But I was going to talk about the music wars here that we're having. It's such a critical time now in the church because a lot of people are concerned with the direction that not only the church music has gone, but in the direction the worship has gone in the churches now. And so it's very it's challenging. My only concern is I don't appreciate the fact that we've sort of forgotten as a people that which is good. You're finding now that too many people who are not musicians or not even musically inclined are in charge of music.
Speak, Patrick.
Right.
Speak.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, can I go back? I made a post on Facebook. Do y'all realize I have a master's degree in music, and I went so I could work in church.
I read your post.
I don't even need one now.
Brother Patrick, I don't want to get somebody in trouble, but somebody who is a great musician was actually being told by the leader of their church one time how to change things as far as praise and worship was concerned to somebody who is a master of praise and worship.
That is not a surprise, Jason. That is going on.
No.
And
I think this person was at least half their age, okay?
Let's put it with Brother Jason. I like that. And I know where you're coming from with that. But hear me clearly. Church music itself is something that is an entity unto itself. Because really you breathe from within. So there is the other side. You don't have to go to school to play in church.
Right.
The point is you have to know church music.
Correct.
You have to be born in it. And that's why that person that you mentioned is the father of it today. He was attuned to that.
Correct.
So you understand, but here's the concern now. We have, a new generation that's coming up, and I mean, we're like really 3 generations in now. We're getting farther and farther away from things that are of great value that define the level of music in the African American church. We don't realize as a people that our forefathers were not stupid. They were quite educated, and that's why they were so gifted. I mean, think about it. I was in Detroit the other week, and I went to, you have to go to that Motown, Hitsville
museum.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that is a regular old city row house.
Right.
All that music that we got out of that one little spot, it's absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, from Marvin Gaye to Aretha Franklin, Gladys Knight and the Picture of Listen, Stevie Wonder, the Jackson 5, all in that little space.
Yeah.
And look how much music we got out of that.
That's right.
Yeah.
The brilliant. So what's happening now is there's no standards, and churches are simply operating out of need. You know what I'm saying? And that's my concern. We're not building upon our actual heritage, because there are many angles that come with church music. You know what I'm saying? I know people don't like, you had the hymns, you had anthems, and of course we've long forgotten the Negro spiritual.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's the first form of music that we know, because that's the slave song.
That allowed us to deal and adore the suffrage that we were dealing with during enslavement.
Patrick, so what's the solution?
What is the solution?
Yes, sir.
Well, it starts with, believe it or not, it starts with communication, and it's going to take some selling, believe it or not, and I'm so scared to say this because I don't want to make them my friends mad, but I got to say, it starts with us reaching out to the clergy.
Yeah.
The clergy.
Because the clergy has long since the 90s bought into this model and paradigm that to become mega, you have to do away with the history.
Oh, Patrick, you're going to get in trouble, man.
Yeah, you're starting something.
That's what I did my study on. And here we are. We have run into this paradigm that we have to come with the latest, greatest, next trick to get folks in here for entertainment so you can preach and you'll have a whole bunch of folks. But it has not necessarily worked that way because we forgot one thing. There's a socio-economic piece to this. Inner city church, rural. Then you got the county.
Right.
It is the pressure from the mega church has been very hard on the inner city churches.
Right. Well, as Patrick would say, you done gone on to meddling, all right? You gone on to meddling here.
It's going to take the clergy to understand, help get the message to our young people, because they'll receive it if you tell it to them. You have a great history here, and this music here is of your people.
That's right.
Well, Patrick, what about just phoning it in? One of my big concerns is that we've gotten to a point now where all I have to do is hook you up on the internet, and I can sort of phone in my whole Christian service. I don't need to come. I just dial in, and then I've got Christ.
Well, that's been a big challenge I've noticed worldwide, because some churches aren't receiving that streaming service because people won't come. I mean, that's the society we're in now with convenience. Everybody wants convenience. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's an opportunity, Patrick. I think it's really an opportunity, but we have to keep to some of the traditions.
Yeah, but I'll say this. So why don't the mosques do it?
Right.
Why don't the Hindu temples? I don't understand.
Right. Because they want you to come in.
They want you to be there. You can't phone it in.
Correct.
That's what I'm talking about. We have commercially brought into this paradigm to just be commercial, and folks are going to come running.
Right. Brother Patrick, we have to take a break. And again, we appreciate all that you do within the music industry and have contributed to gospel music. Those that don't know Mr. Austin here, he is a great writer of many songs as well, and a co-writer as well with Patrick Henderson as well. So, and again, we appreciate your great work.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. And on the other side of the break, I'm going to speak on you as well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere, family. The folks on the line, please hold the line. Don't go anywhere. We will get to you right after the break here. We're going to go straight to the lines after James gives us a little history on Mr. Austin. And you're listening to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People radio program right here on 1010 WOLB, where information is power.
Waiting on the other side of temptation, waiting on the other side of this test is everything.
Talking today, soul at night on the new 1010 WOLB.
Get no or low-cost health care with the Mirror Group Community Care, like doctor visits and prescriptions, plus dental and vision care. All at little or no cost to you. Get more from Medicaid. Choose AmeriGroup today at myamerigroup.com/MD. That's myamerigroup.com/MD. Health Choice is a program of the Maryland Department of Health.
AmeriGroup is a proud sponsor of the 23rd Annual Baltimore County African American Cultural Festival in Towson on Saturday, September 21st. Bring the whole family out to this free event in Patriots Plaza at the County Courthouse from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Enjoy an incredible day of food, live entertainment, African art, crafts, free health screenings, historical exhibits, children's activities, and much more. Be sure to stop by the AmeriGroup booth for information on our many programs. We'll see you there at the Baltimore County African American Cultural Festival on Saturday, September 21st.
The thought of my sons growing up without me inspired me to quit smoking.
I talked to my doctors, and then I threw away all my cigarettes, ashtrays, and lighters.
I started exercising instead of smoking.
Getting support from friends online kept me on track.
Staying away from alcohol when I was first quitting was key.
Instead of smoking after I ate, I'd get up and take a walk.
I missed having a cigarette in my hand, so I'd hold a pen or a straw, anything.
Until I knew I wouldn't give in to temptation, I spent more time with my friends who didn't smoke.
I went to places that were smoke-free.
I didn't stay quit the very first time I tried.
I kept on trying, and I learned something each time.
Do whatever it takes.
No matter how many times it takes.
I quit.
I quit.
I quit.
We did it, so can you.
You can quit. For free help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and CDC.
WOLB Baltimore and WERQ FM HD3 Baltimore. Brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel.
The views and opinions of the guest and host you hear on 1010 WOLB
are not necessarily those of the staff and management of Radio 1, its sponsors, or advertisers.
Welcome back. You are now listening to the Patrick Henderson's Meet the People radio program right here on 1010 WLB. Family, you can join in the conversation, 410-481-1010. If you're listening around the country, it's 1-877-704-1010. And we'd love to hear from you. Brother Morant?
All right, just wanted to say a word. The person that was just on the line was Patrick Alston, who is a city educator in Baltimore, but who is world-renowned in terms of his ability to write and compose pieces, and he is a virtuoso on the organ and piano, and he does gospel and jazz, and I had the great pleasure of having him come to Windsor Castle in England, and he performed an original piece that he wrote for the United Nations Secretary General. And so I have very good feelings about such an accomplished person, and I got to hang out with him for a few days in Europe. So those are my good words about Patrick. So we have just gotten pearls of wisdom from just an icon in Baltimore.
We're giving you your flowers now, Brother Austin.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get back to the lines. Brother Leon, good morning. You're on Patrick Henderson's Meet the People.
Hey, bro. I heard your program on First-Time Caller.
Wow. Wow.
I'm 77 years old, and I'd like to give you a little history in those 77 years since I've been here in Baltimore, other than being in the service and being away at school. I spent 30-some years in the federal government, okay? I had my own investigation section. And when I retired, I was concerned, and I don't know whether you remember or not, a little boy, I think he was 8 or 9 years old, was shot and killed somewhere in East Baltimore while he was getting a haircut. And that disturbed me. I tell you, it really disturbed me. And which made my foray into politics a lot easier. And whether you agree or disagree, I supported Martin O'Malley, okay? And as a result of him winning, I was what you would call a street investigator. I went to a school that had 5 air conditioners stacked in the corner. And I couldn't understand why they couldn't hook those air conditioners up. And as a gentleman reiterated earlier, because the system couldn't take it. And doing renovations on my own place right now, I had to have the whole structure of the wiring in my house changed. And it cost me pretty penny. But in a school, they would have had to turn out the whole system. And the same with the water. The water is in pipes. I had the PCV put in, which doesn't corrode. It lasts you years, but those galvanized pipes that they had in schools, they would have almost tear down the school. Right. And I'm going to move on to let you know what kind of money that costs. I mean, it's not that they don't care about the children in the schools, but the taxes would be so horrific. Nobody at a certain income level could afford it. Okay. Now, as far as Baltimore being the most terrible place and wouldn't recommend it anybody come here, you go down to Grand Central Station in the morning and see those people catching train going to Washington, D.C. And more so, even when they're coming back.
Right.
And I used to ride that train for the simple reason they had what you call Powerball over there, which we did not have. When it would get to $100 million, I'd go over there and buy me some tickets. And seeing as how I'm talking to you, I probably didn't win. You know I probably didn't win. But in any case, you could hear those people of a different persuasion on the train talking about how cheap it is to live in Baltimore and that they are investing in other properties for the future. Now, if Baltimore is so bad, why are these people coming here? You look at the development going on around. We got a certain class of people, unfortunately, do not have a trade. They don't have anything other than being a worker, and the best thing that happened was when Amazon came here, because you didn't have to have a skill. All you had to have was a clean record, okay? But, I'm saying that to say that Baltimore is growing, and it's going to be, I'll probably be dead and gone, but I bet you any amount of money, if any of you guys reach 77, you will say to yourself, you will not believe what is happening in Baltimore. And at least, if you don't have anything good to say about Baltimore, you have a choice. You can move. Have a great day.
And again, Brother Leon, I just wanted to say we appreciate you being a first-time listener, and we hope that this is not the last time that you call in. And I remember the incident. I believe actually it was a 3-year-old child. I think it was James Smith III. He was shot while getting a haircut in a West Baltimore barbershop. And it's truly tragic what took place. But again, we hope that you're not a stranger. Richard, you were saying something?
Yeah, some of us cannot leave the city for one reason or another. And for me, I can't leave this city because of medical reasons. So I'm trapped here. There are a number of people who are trapped here. And he's correct in one sense. People are investing in here. But if they are going to be investing in here, watch what's going to happen. The places that they're going to invest in, they're going to clean out.
Well, okay.
And you see that happening already in many neighborhoods.
And you can see that already happening in some neighborhoods. So the more they start cleaning out, the more people will start coming in. And here's the problem now. The mayor talked about the fact that when they were saying that the population was decreasing, and the mayor saying, no, it's not decreasing at all. It is not. He's right in one sense. It is not decreasing because what you've got coming in here are renters. You got an increase in renters in those apartment buildings and those condominiums that are around the stadiums. What this city needs are property owners so that they can pay property taxes. Right. That's the only way that this city will get the funds necessary to do what they need to do without breaking the backs of everybody else.
And if they stop giving away all the tax money, they wouldn't have to worry about it.
That was just on, it was Mr. Leon. I can deal with his comments because I worked in Washington for 30-some years as well, and I took that train back and forth. And what you did see is people coming to Baltimore because it was cheaper. And then I had a friend that was a real estate agent and said, if I picked your house up and plopped it down in Montgomery County, you'd get 100% more for your house in Montgomery County. So people are going to start coming to Baltimore. This was years ago. He said people are going to start coming to Baltimore in droves. And
and are willing to make the sacrifices.
They will take that train. They have multiple trains now going
and are willing to deal with the crime in some senses.
And they don't care because they know that in some instances this is going to be a good investment property.
Right. And it'll be double or triple in D.C.
Pardon?
Wait till they put the hyperlink train in.
Oh, yeah. And you get to D.C. in less than 15 minutes.
Less than 15 minutes. Or from New York to D.C.
In less than an hour.
In an hour.
Well, you can do less than an hour if you had express trains. Someone wrote an article this weekend about express trains between Baltimore and Washington. You can do it in 40 minutes currently because the speed limit on that track is 125 miles an hour. So if they didn't have to make multiple stops, they could actually do this thing in less than an hour.
All right, we're going to the lines. And again, family, you can chime in 410-481-1010. Brother Mark.
Hey, how y'all doing, man? This won't take long.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, look, check this out. When y'all was talking about, when Leo was talking about investigating things, Jason, you're a wonderful asset. Folks don't realize, we don't use all the power that we have. When you said Chris Patz, it rung a bell. You know Chris Patz, all you have to do, they investigate the school and all that stuff, but they have another entity that investigates crime and justice. So talk to Chris Patz, let Leo know what he wants to investigate, and Brandon Scott will be my guest this Sunday at 5 o'clock. You brothers be blessed. Enjoy your holiday.
Okay.
All right.
Take care, man.
Make sure we'll definitely tune into that. I thought that LY kind of gave him one of them old-fashioned. You remember them old-fashioned butt whippings there, James Morant, where you take the child, put the child over your knee.
Oh yeah.
I've
had them.
I thought he gave him an old-fashioned butt whipping. But Sister Diane, you're on the Patrick Henderson's Meet the People radio program.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Not morning, Jason.
Yeah, well, it's the first time I'm seeing you or hearing from you, so good morning.
Good afternoon. Lord, y'all have said so much since been listening, and you had a good show, and Patrick left it in good hands.
Thank you.
And that's a good thing to know, because some people want to do it their way, don't want to do what the leader has left, but I enjoy you all.
Thank you very much.
This Labor Day, and happy Labor Day to everybody, because everybody that's a working person, enjoy your day. This is our day, the Labor Day. And a lot of people, we don't teach that to our children, what Labor Day really means, and even in the school. So we have to start fighting back. And Leo always says this, Brother Leo, he always say that we have to demand what we want, because everybody else is at the table, and they don't hardly come to those city council meetings. But guess what? They know how to write. They know how to email. They're a council person to make them listen, and we have to start demanding the same thing. If we don't come to the city council meeting, email your city council. First of all, if you don't know who your city council person is, look it up. All you got to do, you got the iPhones, you got the cable TV where you can still get the computers on your TV. Look it up. I mean, it's easy. We sit here and want to invent the wheel, but we just need to add on to stuff that we already have, and throw out the bad stuff. Just keep the stuff that is good, that is containable to our community, to our ethnicity, and just add on to it. And that, I see us always changing, but leaving out the stuff that brought us over. You know how the old people said that brought us over that river? We want to throw that out and put on new stuff. We got to keep the new stuff and the old stuff that kept us where we at. And and to educate our children outside of the school system. You know what I mean?
It begins in the home.
Yeah, well, not only the home, but even if they are not doing it, I remember in my neighborhood where people that was not parents, the community picked up.
The scariest people for me were the people up and down the street, Miss Brown and Miss Susie and whomever, because they could discipline me just like my parents could.
And not only that, you know what? And when we think about discipline, everybody thinks about the beating, right? And I have always been against beatings. I'm going to be very honestly, because it makes children aggressive, and it makes them
or withdrawn.
hit another child and bullying children. And they get that from being beaten at home. So there's a way you can discipline your child. And all I had to, I had one child, and all I had to do was look at my son a certain way. And yes, he got beatings every now and then, but it wasn't like every time I turn around, no. But I didn't take away that beating that I had. I didn't take that out of my household, but I used it less. That's what I'm trying to say.
Diane, I think that we're missing a huge opportunity here, because I say this all the time, that we have generations that unfortunately the school system, be it that they're underperforming, has failed that generation. And in many, and I say that we're missing a huge opportunity here by not finding a way to bring the parents into the school, and in some cases help them to be able to read and help them to have greater parenting skills, so that they can be able to help and mentor and teach and educate their children.
Because sometimes they honestly don't know.
Correct.
And they have good hearts.
I mean, I've had parents, especially when they changed from the Common Core math, to the Common Core math, that they were lost. You know what I mean? And they had never even heard of Common Core math. But in many cases, they were also deficient in just basic elementary mathematics to begin with,
But Jason, when you talk about that, I love what you just said. I feel that the schools really, they say one thing, that they want the parents, but in actuality, to me, because I worked in the school system, they really don't want the parents in there knowing what they're doing and what they are not doing. See, but back there, the parents demand, and they were there. They popped up. They didn't get no appointment to come. That your parents popped up, and if you might have got a beating in that classroom if you was acting up. But parents don't come out because they want to get rid of their children. Tomorrow is the first day of school. How many parents in Baltimore City going to be singing that song? That get the children out. Not School's Out for the Summer by Alice Cooper. That was my favorite song right there.
Well, they'll be there tomorrow, but they won't be there the day after.
Right.
Correct. They'll drop them off, and then that's it.
Some might not be there tomorrow. Their children. How many children have I seen? Little children walk into school by themselves. That should not be. But sometimes we as communities have to pick up that slack. And I want the churches to do more to educate about our history. That's what they used to do in the 60s. The churches used to tell you about the history, about the civil rights, and all other kind of history. It started in the church. We need to go back there, or even have community centers like some churches used to. It's called Soul School. Excuse me. It came out of Sojourner Douglas, right? They taught history outside of the school, and most of those young people that attended there, they're well off because they learned their history, so nobody could be standing on their backs. And that's what we have to get back to doing, even with the political system. People buy. I think Richard is still there. Richard, tell them people buy their candidates. Black people don't. We want them for nothing. We have to start putting money behind them.
If anything, we're looking for something from them, like a chicken box or a half and half or some.
No, we have to put money behind them, and then once we put that money behind them, we supporting them. We come back and whatever we want, we should be able to.
We hold them accountable.
We put them out of put them out of office. And that's the way I look at it. I don't know about nobody else, but it's other things that we can do to build our community. We have to start raising money, and because we say about these vacant houses, raise the money in your neighborhoods, and then present it to the city and say, look, can you match this so we can put these vacant houses back so people can either buy the houses at a low interest rate. And because you got so many people that's working has never bought a house but been renting all their lives. They should be homeowners by now. That's one way to bring homeowners.
Paying $1,000 to $1,200 a month rent for pieces of junk.
Yeah, and where they could be paying like $400 or $500 a month in mortgage instead of what you just said.
Correct.
So it's ways, but we just have to sit down and stop saying, well, we can't do it. We can do it. We just have to put our minds together and talk about. Barack Obama, President Obama was our example. When people were sending him 50 cents, he didn't turn that 50 cents down. He didn't turn those dollars down. Whatever people can give us in our communities to help build our community up, we accept that money, and the people that can afford the $1,000, we accept that too, and then we present it to the city. That's how they used to do back then, and they didn't have college degrees.
Right.
But we have college degrees, and we always talk about we can't do stuff, and we can.
That's saying, Diane, I'll buy that for $1.
Diane.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Do we have one?
Yeah, we have
one more
Brother
call?
Melvin. Good afternoon, Brother Melvin.
A minute.
Good afternoon. Help me out, gentlemen. Brandon Scott, he was running for an election as lieutenant something. I can't remember, but my gut feeling, Brandon Scott just got in office. It seems like he's not, you wishy-washy. You know, you're going to jump to something. You just got in office yourself, and you're going to jump to something else. Suppose he wasn't elected.
Right. Yeah, he was looking to be lieutenant governor of someone's gubernatorial
I can't remember the name of the guy, but he was.
Yeah.
That left a bad taste in my mouth.
Right.
You know, you just got there yourself, and now you wishing you're looking at your career. You're
very ambitious.
Help the people of where you at. That left a bad taste, and that will not vote for him again in life. Talk to you later.
Thank you, Brother Melvin. We appreciate that. All right, in closing, I guess let's start with Brother Richard. Brother Richard, you have any closing thoughts for today?
Yes, next week we have to start talking about this upcoming election, because as of tomorrow, political season starts, and you will now see the church circuit start, as well as you're going to start seeing the fundraiser start. So you better start talking about who are going to be the contenders and who are going to be the pretenders.
Or those who are pretending to be the contenders.
Correct.
All right.
Brother Morant?
Oh, yeah. We have one more town hall meeting with Brandon Scott. So if you want to see him in action, there's one more town hall meeting this Thursday at the Jewish Center on Park Heights Avenue. Just be informed, people. Start getting informed. And that's what I say about Brandon or any person that's running for any seat. So be an informed voter.
And I guess for me, closing out, family, remember that Labor Day starts the beginning of the school year. For tomorrow, our children will be out and about in the streets. So please, if you are driving, be aware of them, be considerate of them, look out for their safety.
And give them a hug.
Yes. And if you can, go out to a school in the morning when a school opens up. If you have the opportunity in the morning, go out, to a school that's opening up for the school year. And let's cheer our children on and encourage them to have a successful school year. Patrick, we miss you, and
yes, we do.
We will see you when you get back into town. I hope everything went well with your symposium. And family, you've been listening to the Patrick Henderson's Meet the People radio program. As I always sign off on my Facebook, go out there and do something special for someone other than yourselves today.
Have a great day, folks.
Love y'all, family.
Until next week.
Bye-bye.
Got a work to do for the Lord, and you cannot afford to lose your way. You come too far from where you started from, so please don't let the time you
WOLB Baltimore and WERQ FM HD3 Baltimore. Brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel.
Creative City Public Charter School has immediate openings for the fall 2019 school year, grades K through 5, with small classrooms, art-based and hands-on curriculum, located in the Park Heights neighborhood of Baltimore City. All Baltimore City residents are eligible to apply. Visit